State your name for the record.
Nicole Ogburn.
And Ms. Ogburn, where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed with Uvalde CISD.
And what is your current job position?
Right now I am a resource teacher.
In May of 2022, where were you employed?
I was employed with Uvalde CISD.
And what was your job position in May of 2022?
I was a co-teacher.
And what does that mean, a co-teacher?
You have a general education teacher and a special education teacher in a classroom. So I was the SPED teacher that was in the classroom in 102.
And who did you co-teach with?
Mrs. Alvarado.
Okay. And what campus did you work at?
Robb Elementary.
And how long had you been working at Robb Elementary as of May of 2022?
About 8 years.
And what grade were you teaching at the time?
4th grade.
Now, what room number was your room?
It was room 102.
Okay. I'm going to hand you a pointer, and if you would come. May the witness get up, Judge?
Please.
Ms. Ogburn, I'm going to give you this pointer. I'm going to ask you, here we have a board that's been introduced into evidence as an aerial view of Robb Elementary. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and here we have the campus right here. I'm going to give you this pointer, and if you would show the jury where your classroom was, 102.
102 is right here in this corner.
That corner, the
Yes,
south end
The south end, yes.
of the building. Okay, thank you. Now, did you begin the year at Robb in the 2021-2022 school year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And for the jury and for the record, the record from the court, can you explain to the jury what is a lockdown procedure?
Lockdown procedure was lights out, windows covered, and you hide in a corner that you can't be seen from the window that's at the door.
Okay. And you had received this training as a teacher for the Uvalde Independent School District?
It was spoken to us about, like, every year they kind of briefly go over what the procedures were, but it had always been shut your window, turn your lights off, make sure your door's locked, and hide in a corner that is not visible to the windows.
And is that the same training that the students receive?
Yes.
Okay. And how often were you trained on this? You said they mentioned it, or?
Well, we did a training for teachers. Usually they would mention it during our PD days before school started, and then throughout the year we'd have lockdown drills and fire drills and all, practice all the drills that we had.
And who would provide the training to the students?
Usually it was just our staff at Robb that would go back over it, or actually us that would train. I'm sorry, didn't realize you said students, but usually us. So we would, before a lockdown practice drill, we would tell them, okay, we're going to have a lockdown practice drill. This is what we're going to do. Myself and Miss Alvarado, I remember talking to him about it, and we were like, we are just going to shut the window, the shade on the window that we had. We are going to turn off lights, and y'all are to file over here into the corner by Miss Alvarado's desk.
Okay, now you said in the corner. Let's go back a little bit. Can you
Okay.
explain to the jury, when you walk into your classroom, what was the layout? What would you see?
So when you walked in our door, you walked in on the left side. We had a cubby kind of blocking, so you couldn't see. There was not a line of sight to that area over there. And then you walk and you turn to the left of that bookcase or cubbies, and there was a built-in cabinets on top and like a built-in desk all the way across. And Miss Alvarado's desk was in the opposite corner of where the entrance was to the door.
Okay, and your desk?
My desk was right in front of the door, but in the opposite corner.
Okay. And going back to the lockdown procedure, you said you would tell the kids, this is what we're going to do, and how you would be in the lockdown, and what would you be doing? What would you be waiting for?
We'd wait in the corner. The kids would get quiet, stay quiet, and during a drill, it was just wait for somebody to come back on the intercom and say, all clear, all clear.
Okay. And in the event that it wasn't a drill, what would you wait for?
They told us to wait until law enforcement comes
Okay.
and announces themselves before you leave your room.
Okay. Now I'm going to take you back to May 24th of 2022. What were your hours that day?
We worked from 7:30 to 3:30, usually or 4, and then that day was kind of an off day because we had, award ceremonies and things, so we didn't have like a schedule of classes that day. It was just do your award ceremony, and the kids, we kind of had a very relaxing day that was going to happen.
Okay. And what time was your award ceremony?
I don't recall exact time, but it was close. We got back to the room closer to like 11, a little bit after 11.
Okay. And what were y'all going to do once you got back to the classroom from the awards ceremony? What was the plan?
For us, it was the kids were going to relax. We were going to put a movie on. We were allowing them to go in and out to go to the bathroom because we had been in the awards and they were all excited. And so we told them, if you need to go to the bathroom, ask us and just go ahead and go, and we'll start the movie in a few minutes. So that's kind of what was going on at that time, was the kids were going back and forth to the bathroom and then coming back to the classroom.
Okay. So did y'all have plans to go outside or just watch the movie?
We were going to watch the movie, and we had told the kids that we would go outside a little bit earlier than we normally did. We usually went outside about 12:15 for recess, and then we went to lunch at 12:30. So we kind of were like, we'll go out a little early, but we're going to wait a little bit because it's real hot outside. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, we'll just put this movie on and y'all can watch the movie until we go outside.
And while you're watching the movie and waiting to go outside, what did you hear?
Well, one thing I do recall is some of the girls that are in our classroom had to come up and asked. And I distinctly remember looking at my watch and saying, it's only 11:21, girls. We're not going to go out yet. We're going to wait because it's really hot out there. And they were like, okay. I said, just go sit and watch the movie and relax for a little bit. And myself and Miss Alvarado were doing paperwork to kind of, we have to do end of the year things to wrap up the year. So we were doing some of our paperwork while the kids are watching movies.
Okay. Then what happened?
I don't know. It was like 8 minutes later. I'm not really sure. I heard, it sounded like metal hitting the brick. And so we assumed, myself and Miss Alvarado, assumed it was some of our custodians out there working, because it wasn't uncommon for us to hear noises and them outside working on something. And so I thought it was like maybe a shovel or something hitting the bricks as they were digging up something. I didn't know. So I stood up and looked out. I had a window right behind me, but I couldn't see anything out of it anyway. So I stepped over to the other window on the opposite side from my desk and looked out the window. And
what did you see when you looked out the window?
I saw a guy dressed in black. He kind of had mid-length hair, and I saw a backpack and a gun pointed towards the playground and pavilion area.
Now, I'm going to give you this pointer again. I want you to show the jury where you saw him when she looked out the window.
Okay.
May the witness get down, Judge?
Yes, please.
So there was a tree right outside this window right here. My desk was over here somewhere, and there was another window. So I was looking out this window closest to the corner of the room, and there's a tree here, and he was standing by that tree
Okay.
on the sidewalk.
And where you're pointing to, for the record, is the southwest corner of that fourth grade building. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we see a sidewalk that's kind of in an elbow shape, right?
Yes, that.
Okay.
Right there, and that leads up to the south door.
Okay. And he was on that corner.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let me sit down. once you saw the shooter on that corner, and what did you think?
I was like, we've got to get down and go ahead and hide. Go into like there hadn't been a lockdown called yet, and I was just like, we got to get down. So I went, oh my God, there's a gun. And the kids kind of started panicking, and I just told them, get to the corner, hide under there. And we had a black curtain that actually went all the way down that built-in desk that we stored stuff in because we didn't have a lot of storage, so we had put stuff under there and hid it with a black curtain. So usually our kids, when we were doing practice drills, they would get behind the black curtain. Not all classrooms had that, but ours did, and so they would get behind that curtain and hide, and that's what they did.
Okay. And what did you do when she said that he has a gun and you told him to get down? What did you do?
Miss Alvarado had left her keys on the desk, and we had not locked the door that day because we were like, it was very relaxed. We were waiting for all the kids to finish going to the bathroom. And I went to try to throw my keys at her, and both of us were like, no, he's coming in that south door is what we thought he was doing. Because the way he was walking and pointing his gun looked like he was going to come in through that door. And so I was like, we have no time, just hide. So all the kids hid, and I remember coming around all the desk, and I had two little boys that were actually sitting by the door, and I said, no, get over here. So I had them go around the cubbies and get behind the cubbies and underneath. And right about that time, I heard gunshots, and I felt stuff falling on me. So I literally went onto the ground on my belly and started just crawling on my belly to get underneath the curtain with the kids.
Okay. And the kids were already underneath that table?
Yes, they were already there.
Okay. Did you move any furniture? Did you change things? Okay.
Not at that time, no.
Okay. So what did you do? You crawled to where the kids are?
And I laid underneath. I was kind of closer to Mrs. Alvarado's desk. I crawled over there and got under there, and there were kids all around me, in front of me, behind me. I kind of felt like my body was kind of sticking out of the curtain, but I was trying to cover myself with that curtain too at the same time.
And is that part of your lockdown procedure?
Yes. I mean, for our classroom, it was, because then they were completely out of sight.
Okay. And the kids knew this?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have one student that was trying to protect you?
Yes. I had one of my students, after I got under the curtain, I was laying on my stomach, and he crawled onto my back and laid across me and rubbed my arm and telling me, Ms. Ogburn, it's going to be okay.
Okay. So what did you do after you crawled underneath the table and were with the kids?
At that point, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I was the first person to see this guy? I've got to notify somebody. I didn't know who had seen him or not. So I had my Apple Watch on, and I dialed 911 from it. And I did that twice, and my calls were dropped. And I think it was on my third try that it finally went through. And 911 operator was asking me where I was and who. I don't even recall telling her my name. I just said, I'm a teacher at Robb Elementary. There's a active shooter in our building. I'm in room 102, the new building at Robb. And she said, stay on the line with me. And I told her I couldn't, because if he heard me, he was gonna come in our room and shoot us. And I just hung up the phone. I didn't wait for her to say anything else.
Okay. Do you remember if you told her that somebody had been shot, or did you get?
Oh yes, I did. I remember. I had also told her that Miss Avila. I didn't mention her name, but I said another teacher across the hall from me, because I couldn't remember her room number, had been shot and had sent a message in one of our group chats from several years back. We had a math Google chat, and I guess that was the first one she opened, and she sent a thing saying she had been shot.
Now, where is Miss Avila's room in relation to your room?
Her room was just like diagonal from my room. There was one room across from me, and then hers was the next one over across the hall.
Okay. Now, you said you call 911.
Yes.
Okay, and you would recognize your voice on that tape, right?
Yes, I would.
The state would. Okay, the state offers exhibit number 10 into evidence, which is the 911 recording of Ms. Ogburn.
That'll be moved,
The state would ask to publish that 911 recording to the jury.
please.
Uvalde County 911. Uvalde County 911. There's an active shooter at Robb Elementary School. An active shooter. Robb Elementary School. An active shooter. Screaming symptoms of body, gallery, police. I don't know how to help him. They come in. I don't have a video, but I'll get you gunshots outside my classroom. You put in a gunshot to your parents, building, and the building. I don't know who's in the lot. I pulled up and I got another truth amazing. Somebody is shot in the classroom. Somebody is shot in the classroom? Okay, can you tell me the keep it another one? I'm sorry, what? Another classroom. I don't know. Please hurry. Okay, now what room number? What room number? Can you tell me what room? Room number 2. I know you're giving you a area. I don't know what he's at right now. I gotta go. I can't let him hear me. Okay, she'll let him hear me. It's okay. It's okay. I understand. Okay. Okay.
I want to be real specific about why you hung up and why you told her, I can't let him hear me. What was your thoughts about that?
Because I really thought he was still in the hallway. I had heard a door kind of shut, and I thought it was him coming in that south door, so I was scared he was right outside. And he was going to come into our room, and I didn't want him to hear me.
Okay, and that's part of your training.
Yes.
Were you eventually evacuated, Ms. Ogburn?
Yes. Eventually, I don't know what law enforcement agency they were with, but what seemed like an hour went by was not, but a law enforcement officer happened to come in, and he was like, is there anybody in here? And the kids, and he announced himself, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something to do with law enforcement, and they said, yes, we're here. And then he said, are your teachers here? Is everybody okay? And myself and Miss Alvarado were like, yes, we're here. He asked me and Miss Alvarado, go out the window, move the bookcase and go out the window. The bookcase was located underneath the window I had previously looked out at and seen the shooter, and it was also the window that he shot into when I dove to the ground. And so myself, and this bookshelf was our library, so myself and Miss Alvarado pushed it to the side and opened it with glass just falling everywhere around us, and then we put a chair up because it was a little high up for the kids to get out the window, and we started filing kids out the window.
Who was the last person to leave your classroom?
Myself.
And why is that?
There was a few kids that went before Miss Alvarado. Miss Alvarado went, and then I let the rest of the kids go, and then I went just to make sure that all of us had gotten out.
So you went to make sure the kids were safe before
Yes.
you went to that room? Ms. Ogburn, are you still teaching today?
Yes, I am.
Pass the witness.
May I proceed, Judge?
Please.
Ms. Deming?
Ms. Ogburn.
I'm sorry, I'm looking wrong. Please forgive me, Ms. Ogburn. My name is Nicole Ogburn. I'm one of the lawyers that represents Adrian. I want to start. Here you go. So I'm sorry. I apologize. You said something at the beginning of your testimony that you're a SPED teacher,
Yes.
and that means special ed.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a special ed needs son, so that's why I know that. So I
Yes.
appreciate what you do very
Yes,
much.
thank you.
And so you kind of are you do you do the ARD meetings as well? Or
Yes, I do.
Okay, and that's an extra duty you do in relation to your special ed's teaching?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, was room 102 a special ed's room, or was it just,
It's, well, a co-teach classroom does have special ed children in it. The majority of them are general ed students.
right?
And usually it's like a 60-40 breakdown.
And so if it's like our son, it's they do some things with the general
I
students,
worked with all of them.
but what I'm saying, do they isolate some of the special ed kids at times to work on certain stuff?
No,
They all at the same time?
all at the same time.
Got it. So let's talk about the day, because it looks like that this was, I think you said it was an off day and you really didn't have a schedule that day.
Yeah, we had our lunch schedule, but we didn't have our regular scheduled classes.
Right. And that's not a criticism, it's just the way it was.
No, it's just the way it was because it was only like a day or two before school was
Right.
to be out.
And you had your award ceremony, and then did some kids leave after the award ceremony?
Yes, sir.
And so the ones that stayed, it was more of a after-school play time, just hang out with each
Yeah,
other?
we were just gonna hang out. We had some like projects. We had like fun like STEM projects we had been doing with them a few days, like the day before. And we were gonna probably continue that later that afternoon and finish some of them up.
And just so the jury understands it, what's a STEM project?
STEM is science, technology, I can't remember it all. Anyways, it's basically like
Math.
math, everything together, and they can create things. It's more of a creative way to use their minds, and so we're building roller coasters out of paper plates
Right.
or stuff like that.
And then at some point, I think you described the noises you heard, you thought it might be maintenance working on things,
Yes.
and noises were normal.
It sounded just like metal on brick.
I want to also ask you, do you know what a bailout is?
Yes, I do.
Will you please describe to the jury what a bailout is?
A bailout was when we had illegals that they were basically chasing down, and they would stop and run out of their vehicles and hide from the police
And
or
the bailout is referencing bailing out from a vehicle and going on.
running. Yes, and we also had some chases in the air, just some chases with illegals through our area.
And in your opinion, was that pretty frequent in your area?
Yes, it was kind of normalized by then.
The bailout was normalized.
Then yes, the bailout.
And so is it fair to say when there was a lockdown called, and you tell me if I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like the lockdown lost its seriousness over time.
I know that for my classroom, we took it seriously all the time, but it was kind of like, oh, it's probably another bailout.
And that's what I mean. I mean, if it's when I was younger, fire drills was okay. It's a fire drill, right?
Yeah.
So you just got another fire drill once a month. But this is not a drill. It was an actual bailout, and it seemed like that they, like you said, became normalized.
Right.
And so the lockdown procedures, it sounds like you followed them specifically. Do you know what the culture was about lockdown procedures?
I mean, I feel like all the teachers there followed them, but also, I didn't get the lockdown message on my phone, or actually I didn't have my phone because I left it on my desk.
And
On my watch was a text message, and then I recall maybe an email coming through, and that was like 11:36, somewhere in there, about.
11:36, you got the lockdown message.
Yes.
Are you aware that he entered the building at 11:32:58?
I was aware after the fact, yes.
Yes.
From watching videos, yes.
Right. And when you say watching videos, and we've kind of had to deal with this with all witnesses,
Yeah,
because it's been so publicized, everyone has seen stuff outside of your experience.
correct.
Can I humbly ask you to try to focus on, and it sounds like you did a great job, focusing on what you were thinking and what you experienced at the time versus what anybody saw after based off of
Yeah,
someone's
I know.
opinion.
How I was feeling at
Yes,
the
ma'am.
time,
Yeah.
I was very, very nervous. I had several like other people trying to call me on my watch, and I just said, one of them was my husband. I said, I can't talk. There's an active shooter in my building. I hung up.
And when you describe the lockdown, and there's two aspects to it, right? And I think they're broken down into hold and then actual lockdown, right?
Yes,
Hold means hold in place, don't go outside.
but you can continue teaching and doing your regular activities.
Right, and then the second one is, okay, this is more precautionary, this is the lockdown. The lockdown portion of it is where the lights lock the door and hide.
correct.
You said something, because I want to get to the culture of door locks in a second. You also mentioned that I think the government asked you about if you guys went over these procedures, and you said they briefly went over them with us.
Yeah, every year they kind of briefly go over it with us to like refresh us, like this is how you do each of these things. But like the state, and I don't know how many times a year it is, but the state has guidelines on how many times we have to have these drills.
Do you recall how many times the school had them?
Oh, we had them, I know at least 2 or 3 of them that year.
Okay. Lockdowns or the
Drills,
trainings?
drills.
Okay.
Drills.
And so they would briefly go over them with you. And one of the things about, as we've all gotten into this horrible incident, it seems like you're taught and the children are taught, and I understand, we all get it, to be quiet.
Yes.
But if you would know, if everyone is quiet inside, if somebody's outside, there would be no way for them to know if anybody's inside if they don't know the schedule. Was that a fair statement?
Well, yes and yes, but also if you don't know the procedures, you don't know that we're supposed to be in there quiet.
Agree. But also, what we have found out, and I want your opinion about this, your school was not assigned a full-time officer.
No, we didn't have enough officers at that time to have one at each school.
And this is not a criticism of you, you understand that?
Right, no, I understand that.
I'm just saying, do you know if teachers had been requesting administration to have a full-time officer?
I don't recall that.
Okay. But the fact remains is there was not a full-time officer that...
Was at our campus all the time, correct.
Now you talk about locking the doors. So every teacher was given a key to their door, correct?
Yes.
There wasn't a kind of key fob, a
No,
badge?
no.
That
We had none of that.
Right. And were there some teachers that used a magnet to make it easier for substitutes that didn't have keys?
I recall seeing some on some doors, but I didn't know if they used them or not.
Okay. But that was, the teachers got a key, but substitutes didn't get a key.
That is correct.
Okay. Do you know, or do you have an opinion on the policy of the external doors? Because there was a policy that the external doors were supposed to be locked at all times.
A few years before this, I do remember it, like one of our principals really enforced it. But we hadn't really heard about locking all the doors, but the west end door was always locked that went out to the teacher's parking lot.
Do you know now that on this day, unfortunately, that door was not locked?
I do know that now, yes.
But policy-wise, it was supposed to be
It was
locked.
supposed to be locked.
And I'm sorry you have to go through that 911 call again and reliving what you went through. But you said something important that caught my attention. You said, I thought he was in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And now you know that he walked upside the west, so he
Correct.
wasn't in the building when you thought. And that's not a criticism.
Right, I know.
Stress does interesting things to perception, right?
Yes.
Have you heard of the term perception distortion?
No, I have not.
Okay. But you understand stress is...
Yes,
does
yes,
different things to different people.
yes.
Okay. And so when you said you thought he was either going to go in the south building, he didn't, correct?
No,
And when you were on 911 call, he wasn't actually in the building at the time.
I did not know that at that time.
When you were on the phone with 911, you were hearing multiple shots?
I heard multiple shots, not while I was on the phone with them,
Okay.
but before I was on the phone with them.
Right, so are you aware that by the time you were on the phone with 911 that he had already been in the building?
Yes.
Okay, for some
But
time.
now I am.
Right, at the time you did not know.
No, I did not.
I think you testified on direct examination that when you got a message from a teacher that had been struck,
Yes.
what was the name of that teacher?
Elsa Avila.
Avila?
Mhm.
And if I'm looking at a diagram of yours, you're in 102, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Just for me,
Okay.
I told you that you're, but can I be this close to you?
That's,
So if you're 102, where's
oh,
your
so this was, this one, 109.
109?
Yes.
Do you want to introduce it, or? Let me just see it.
Got another one.
No, I'm good. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I'm good. Whatever you need to do.
Christine has one. My first witness, Judge?
Yes, sir.
I'm handing you what is marked as Defense Exhibit 1 for identification only. You recognize Defense 1, correct?
Yes.
And this is kind of a diagram of Robb Elementary.
This is a diagram of just the new building, or the newer building at Robb Elementary,
And
yes.
the new building is really the newer building,
The
right?
new, or it's not that new, but yes.
And 102 is where you were at on the screen?
Yes, right here.
And then 109 is where Ms. Avila was?
Yes, just,
And is this diagram a fair and accurate depiction of the newer building?
yes.
Judge, I move Defense 1 into evidence.
No objection.
Thank you.
Submitted.
Can I call this to the jury?
Yes.
And so, at some point, the government asked you that your class was evacuated.
Yes.
Do you recall what agencies evacuated you from the window?
I do not. There were people dressed in, I didn't see faces, I saw uniforms and people still dressed in like their everyday clothes with tactical over it. But, so I don't know all the agencies that were there.
But there were officers getting the kids out.
Yes, there were officers getting the kids out.
And do you know now that Adrian was one of those officers?
No,
exiting?
I still do not. I did not know that.
Okay. Well, I think you're a woman of honor to go last. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pass the witness, Judge.
No more questions, Your Honor?
Excused, subject to recall.
Excuse, Judge.
Excused and no recall for us.
Ma'am, you have been excused, not subject to recall. Thank you very much. You can
Thank
take
you.
off.